Hello and welcome to this video on React. Especially, we will see how we can display list items in SPFx web part using React. I hope by this time you must have been gone through the no JavaScript framework web parts where we saw how we can actually retrieve items, how we can insert item, how we can delete item, all these things we saw. The reason behind that, why I'm saying that you should go through that is the calling or the communicate with SharePoint, that is same. Only thing is we will see here how in React where we should write our code and in which method we should call our or we should try to communicate with our SharePoint APIs or with our SharePoint data. So in this example, you can see here I have a news list. If I will show you, this is the list which has a couple of news on this. And what we are going to do here is we will see how we can retrieve the items from the SharePoint, and then we will see how we can display the news like this. And once user will click on that, it will go to that display form, or to that it will open that particular item. Now, first we will create a web part, and then I will tell a couple of things which we should know, or a couple of methods that we should understand in React. So let's first create it here. So I will create a folder SPFx web part React demo, and or we will just change a little bit on this SPFX web part React display items, and we will say cd SPFX React display items, and cd web part React display items. Now we will run the yo command, so yo Microsoft / SharePoint, and then it will ask us the web part all these things details as usual. So we will select those things, and then while creating or while selecting the framework, we will select React. So you can see here, just a second, it will just take some time and then we will be done. So now this will be the web part name, and we will target for SharePoint Online current folder. We don't need this, we don't need this web part. And what will be the web part name? So SPFX web part or SPFX React display item web part, and here we will select the React framework. So you can see here I select it, and now it will create the folder structure, everything. So now it is time we should understand couple of things on that. Meanwhile it is creating, and these are the things. So in React we should understand what is a constructor, what is the render method, what is the component did mount method does, and when we should use the component will mount method. So particularly for this example, let's understand these four things. First of all, we are using a render method. Mostly this is the most popular one. I have a PDF. I have taken also a very simple example from internet. I have put the reference also here. So you can see here, this is the document that you are going to get on this. So first of all, what is a constructor? So constructor is, as usual, it's like like a object oriented programming language. So it's the method which is called automatically whenever you are creating an object of a class. So if you are trying to do some initial set of stuff, you can put this inside the constructor in React.js. And here, for example, you can bind the event handlers to the component inside this constructor. And if you want to also initialize the local state of the component, then you can do this in the constructor. And this method is fired before the component is mounted. And first of all, when actually you are writing a constructor, you want to access some properties or something, then we have to actually call the super method here. So it will be like super props. If you not write this, then it will actually give a you might not get the proper result. It might throw an error. So in the constructor, if you want to try to access the properties, make sure that we call super props first. And when you actually call this super method, it actually calls the constructor of the parent class. That is our, in this case, it is mostly the React component, React.component. And another thing is that uh, we we should not call the set state method. So if you'll see here, actually what we are doing is I have initialized something on the state. So this dot state and the name is this, salary is this, but we should not actually call the set state. What will the problem will happen is, if we'll call the set state again, then it will go to an infinite loop. So because it will again change the state and then the constructor will call, so these things will go on. So we should not call that set state here. Now this is how actually we are going to have our constructor as well. We will see how we can use this. So then the methods, so the render method or the component did mount or will mount. So those methods, I have this coding game site is there. From here, I have taken as it is. I have taken the examples, and this really very simple examples, and you can just visit that URL also to know more on that. And the render method, this is the method that we usually use in the React to display the items. So here it will return a JSX file. So it will return the JSX, which is a mix of kind of HTML, and we'll be having our script also in that. So the syntax will be like that. And if you'll see in this example, I have imported React component from React, and then we have a class. So this is the render method. You can see here div, and then this is h1 tag, and we are rendering something. If you don't have anything, then you can actually return null. So without, it should have always a return statement. So for example, if nothing there to return, then you can just return render method and return null. So you, at least you have to return something on that. But you cannot define a set state inside a render method. You cannot do that, because when you will do set state function, it will again change the state of the application, which will again call the render method. So because when you will actually change the state, the render method will get called, and then it will go to an infinite loop. So but in this here, you can in the render method, you can have some variables, you can perform some operations. Those things will be there, but you should not never use set state function over here. Now this component did mount, this method is called after all the elements in the page rendered correctly. So this is the method will get called, and this is actually the place where we can call the set state. That means in that set state, we can change the state, and then the render method will call, and it will load the updated data or the updated JSX. And this is the place where you are going to call your APIs. Let's say we try to retrieve the items from the list, then it is the place where you should write. Because once you do that, then you can set state method will call, and then it will load the data in the render method. So you will having, you can see that result here. So how it will work is, you can see here, we have the constructor. So we added like this, and this dot state data, then there is a name you can see here. Now so that means first time the name will come, and then when I will write something, or I'll change the state in the component did mount method, then it will change. For example, now there is a get data function is there. What it is doing is actually this is a method. What it will do is, or if you'll see simple thing, component did mount, this in this method we are calling this our get data. Now what this get data is doing is, it will go here, it will set a timeout of 1 second, and then what it will do is, I mean 1000 millisecond it will do. And what it will do is then your data will be fetched, and you can see here this dot set state. Now we are actually changing the state, or we are setting the state with the new hello world state. That means first time this will get called, and when the mount component mount will call, it will call this method after 1 second, and you will actually see it will change to hello world state. So this will because in the render method you can see here we are returning this dot state data. So that means when you set state, the render method will also called, and it will actually change the updated data. So that how your state will change, and it will bind with the updated data. Now next thing is the component will mount method. So this will called before any HTML element is rendered. So you have to understand this thing very clearly. These two methods, one is will mount and the another is did mount. So will mount will called before any HTML element is rendered. So once this is so that means something will be there first. That means first you will see this call log in the will mount, and then you can see here, and then you will see this data, and if you'll again did mount, the data will change, and this will get called. So in this case, whatever you wrote in the console.log, you will be able to see at the beginning. So this is the first thing that it will call, and then it will call to your first state, and then when you call the did mount, because that will call after HTML loaded, and again this will change the state. Okay, so last you will see this message from whatever you put in the this dot get data method. Now this is the order. So first the will mount you will call. As I said, first you will see whatever the things are there. In this particular example above, you can see the console log things, and then it will set the initial state in the constructor. So whatever we have, this dot state in the constructor, that message will print, and then the render method, and then component did mount, and it will set the state, and then it will call the render method. That means finally you will see the message whatever they are in the component did mount method. So now we will see our example on this thing. So we will see how we can use the did mount method, how we can use the render, and then how we can use the constructor to set up the thing. So these things we'll see. So I hope by this time our project got created. You can see here I will just put code dot, and it will open in the SharePoint in Visual Studio Code. Now first thing what we will do here is we required a site URL because obviously we are retrieving the items from the SharePoint list, so we need the site URL. Either you can use a web part property, and you can do that, or we can take from the context, also from the page context we can use that. So to do this, what we can do is we will add one method here, sorry, one property here. So for example, web URL, which is of type string, and I will go to my webpack this class, and on this class we are going to write this here. So it will be like web URL, and this will be this dot context dot page context dot web dot absolute URL. So it will basically, it will give us the URL, and that is the only thing that we require in this file. And this is the place where actually it is the starting point, and we can just set up the properties. If you want to read the properties from the property pane, then you can add a text box here in a property 10 text field, and you can edit the properties, and you can take it. But here in this case we took it as a property, and we can just take the URL from here. And next is our tsx file. This is actually the important file which we required when to work with this. So as I said, we need couple of things on this. One thing is we have to call the render method, we have to use the did mount, and then the constructor, everything will be here. So before that, we are going to use jQuery here because we need to call the REST API. So we need the jQuery. So I will have to run a couple of commands on this. So let me just copy it. So these are the commands to install jQuery. So npm install hyphen save jQuery, and then this is the typing for that. Also you have to install that, because if you are going to add any external JS, so we have to use the typings also. You can see here you have to install the typings. So once both the things installed, then we can use the jQuery here. So you can see here now this will be done in couple of seconds. And once we have done, then we can import the jQuery. First of all, you can see here, this is the thing that we are using. So I will just take it here, import star add jQuery from jQuery. So this is the thing, we took it here. Now, next thing is, we have to have the constructor for this. Um, um, we will write the constructor for this, but before that, we have to have an interface which will be having the properties. So whatever the columns we need to retrieve, in this case, let's say we'll retrieve the title and the ID, so we can take that. So I will just copy the code. You can see here, I will take it here. So I put the interface here, and you can see in this case, so I'll just copy, um, I will give the exact name for this. So if you'll see here, now this is the interface which where we have the items, and there will be title and ID, because on this title and ID we are going to retrieve from on the SharePoint list. Next is our constructor. So in the constructor, we will set the state initially with the column properties. So to do this, I will just copy this constructor here, uh, the code. So you can see here constructor, and we have to take the uh, properties and the state here. So you can see here this is our I interface properties, and this is our state. So, and we call the super props as I said, and then this dot state, and here we have the items, and we set the title and ID as blank. So this is what is the constructor will do, and then we in the did mount we will change the state, and then we will see how it will work. Now next thing what we will do is, we will call our did mount method, which will be having our REST call. So the REST call, we need to first build the URL for that. So let me just copy it. If you'll see here, this is our did mount method. Now on this, if you'll see here, I have taken just a extra variable on this. I will tell what is the use of this one. But yeah, so now if you'll see here, we have a React handler which is we assign it to this. We can also directly write this dot set state. We can do that, but you can take as a variable also. And then this is jQuery dot ajax and the URL. So this is going to be our URL. So if you'll see here, this dot props dot web URL, because that is the URL which we have assigned from our TS or our web part class file. So once you have that, then underscore API slash web list get by title and news, because slash items. So this is the REST endpoint. This is not new. This is the same thing that we are using well in the previous examples on no JavaScript also. And if you'll see here header, and we are changing the set state. You can see here set state and items result data.d.result. So our whatever the items it will return, we will get everything on the items now. Now once we get this, then what we have to do is we have to change our render method here on this. So what exactly this render method we are going to do is, we will use let me just copy it here. Let me just copy these things, the return method. So now if you'll see here, we have just copied things over here, styles, then we have to change the CSS, that thing we will see. And now if you'll see here, we have taken this dot state dot items dot map, and then will be this map actually, it will, you can have all the items here. We can use the map function, and then here you can see here we build the URL. So sometimes if I will take here this dot props dot props dot web URL, that sometimes it gives an error, or you will get null on that. That's the reason I have taken a variable, and this variable I have set it here. So that's the only thing that we have done. And then if you'll see here, we are redirecting, or the URL will be a new slash displayform.spx, and we'll be having our item.id. And finally, if you'll see here, it will expect a key actually, which will be a unique things. And then you can see here, I have put some CSS. I'll show you that. And then I have a hyperlink, and then item.title will be the text, and then href will be the URL which we generated here. So this is the variable. On this we have generated our URL. So the error why it was not coming properly, because we have to call this one here also, the state. So once you have this, then you can use the items. So now if you'll come down here to our render method, so you can see here this dot, you have the item and the key now. So item dot title dot id, you will get all the properties here, and this is just a, you put ul and li, so that it will come in that format. And we have a one item css class is there. So one css is for this item. So if you'll actually, and one for main title, just to make the font bold. So if I'll actually see the module.css, you can see here, this is the main title class. I have just added a font and the color, and then the item, the font size, color, and then all these things are there, link color, and then widgeted color, hover color, active color, like this. You have put something on that. So that's our CSS file. Now you can run the gulp serve. So if you'll actually look at here, I have already started this. So if we'll open now, this is our gulp serve. So locally you will not do anything, you will not get anything. But let me open the SharePoint workbench. So if I'll actually go here, um, if you'll open that, this is our SharePoint workbench, and here we can search for get SPFx. So you can see here SPFx React display item web part. This is our web part, and if you click on that, you can see the items over here. So it is coming from the SharePoint list. You can see here, this is our list, and you can see the items here. So just to summarize, we have main important thing is the component did mount method, where we are doing our call to the SharePoint, and then we will have an interface which will have the properties. And then in the render method, you can see here we have the map function, which where we will actually, the way we do in the for each loop, so you will do the same thing on this. Let's say you're trying to visit an array with items, so you can use the map function. So same here, our items object, and then here we did the map function, and we have the URL, we created the URL, and then finally you can see here ahref and then item.title, and it will come in the live format. So this is how we can display items from the SharePoint list in our React. So I will put this project code, everything. You can download the zip as well as the document. You can also go through the methods that I told you on this one. So these are the things that you should also know: constructor, render method, and these examples. All these two methods, how we can use that. So in next on other videos, we will see some more operation in the React itself. So you can check it out.